Imagine you have your mobile phone, and imagine someone takes it over without you noticing it. So there is no link you have to click on. And your mobile phone turns into a spyware of your own government or another government, can actually listen into what you do, can use your camera and knows what you're doing. It can search all your messages and all your emails. It can look at all your pictures. And if you use a little bit of AI, you can actually figure that spy can actually figure out that you're in love with someone you don't know yourself yet. And it can also see what kind of political contacts you have, and they may be really important. I'm just looking at you by accident, nothing particular, Mr. Chairman. That's what Pegasus is. It is more than we see in 1984, where in the novel of Orwell, you have to go to the screen, click on the screen, and start talking. At that point, you know you're talking to your government. You know you're being watched. With this kind of device, you do not know you're being watched, and the other person knows more about you than you ever knew. And that's frightening. And that's what we're looking at today. There's mounting evidence that such spyware as Pegasus was sold to at least 14 EU member states. And it has been used by several Council of Europe member states, including Poland, Hungary, Greece, Spain and Azerbaijan, against journalists, against political opponents, against human rights defenders, against lawyers. Council of Europe and other international legal standards have clearly been breached. Think of Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which guarantees the right to private life. But also think of Article 18. And please note it has an incredibly chilling effect if you know that your government is using it. Because you know that you can't communicate freely. And in fact, the fairness of the electoral process in countries such as Poland, where it was used against political opponents during the 2019 political campaign, means that election was not fair. In the resolution, we make a series of specific recommendations to states. So we call on the main countries concerned, Poland, Hungary, Greece, Spain and Azerbaijan, to conduct effective and independent investigation in all cases of abuse and provide redress to victims of unlawful surveillance. I also ask them to inform the Assembly and the Venice Commission about the use of spyware within 3 months. Other states which seem to have acquired or used Pegasus, not unlawfully, should also report back to the Assembly and the Venice Commission within the same deadline and inform us about the legal framework of oversight mechanism. We talk then about Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg and the Netherlands. All member states should assure that their national laws on secret surveillance and their implementation are in line with the Court and the Venice Commission standards. In the short term, we need a moratorium, and in the mid-term, we need to regulate it specifically, both the acquisition and the use of spyware, limiting its use to exceptional situations as a measure of last resort. Think of state security. In the resolution, I invite the Venice Commission to assess the legal framework and practice on targeted surveillance of all member states in order to check if it contains adequate and sufficient guarantees. Only then should states be able to use it. If it is adopted, this resolution, I will immediately send letters to the delegations of the states concerned as a first action for follow-up. I will hope to get at least some clear replies from the national authorities concerned, and the future Venice report on the subject will contain specific recommendations on the guidance from states. Finally, and that's very important, in the draft recommendation, I propose that the Committee of Ministers adopts a specific recommendation to Member States focusing on acquisition, use, sale and export of spyware. The Committee of Ministers should examine at a later stage the feasibility of a new Council of Europe Convention on this topic. And let me remind you, because we're in the European Parliament today, we had a really good investigation from the PEGA committee here. But the EU has got limited competences in the area of national security. The Council of Europe, on the contrary, surveillance for national security and law enforcement purposes is at the very core of state power. And it must in all circumstances be subject to the rule of law and human rights principles for which the Council of Europe stands for. So we are the organization which should do it, not the EU. I must say that I tend to agree with those who have argued that Pegasus, given its level of intrusion into a person's smartphone, which can be converted in a 24-hour surveillance device with retroactive access to all data, could hardly meet the requirements of proportionality under international human rights law. I do understand that states may need to use it in exceptional circumstances. Think about terrorism, think about state security. But before doing that, we need to have clear legislation, robust oversight mechanism, procedural guarantees and effective remedies. Only then could it be limited to what is strictly necessary in a democratic society, in line with the values of the Council of Europe. And mind you, I've started this work about 10 years ago. This may be my last week here, I don't know. It is one step at a time. We started with the revelations of Mr. Edward Snowden about what it meant to be in a society where the government knows all about you. This goes a number of steps further. And it may look harmless if your government is a democratic government with oversight. But you do lay the foundations for a surveillance state, and all the foundations are in state once the wrong party gets into power. So these tools are extremely dangerous, and we should use extreme care in using them. Thank you.